And I like to think about this sort of from an equation standpoint, where the adoption risks have to be much, much less than the rewards. And a lot of this comes from my history with going through the adoption of additive manufacturing in um, specifically aerospace, defense, and on the metal side, biologic bioimplants for orthopedics. In the as an end user, introducing a new material. There's always unexpected interactions, so that's a significant risk when you're thinking about a um, large research program or assay development where the end user often sees the microfluidic device as the packaging, and they don't want to risk their project on packaging. I mean, even though I think most of the people on the call appreciate microfluidics can be a lot more than just the packaging. There's also a new manufacturing process, especially on the more biologically heavy end users, not familiar with CAD, or operating 3D printers, much more familiar with pipettes and syringes and microscopes. Often going to 3D printing introduces a completely new design. There's also the associated capital cost, although we have seen a dramatic reduction in the cost of printers. And then there's also the learning curve risk for every user. And then on the reward side, which I think is what we as a community sort of need to sell more and empower, is, I think we've seen it here today with a lot of the, chip to world interface things that we can do that are inherently hard when you're doing soft lithography. So how do we not just make a microfluidic chip that has better performance, but how do we also make it much more usable in the lab by putting Lure Lock interfaces on, or putting integrating the tube connectors, putting in valves, and those things can actually lead to overall a lower system cost, and improved usability. If you think about the time a grad student might spend in the lab trying to make those devices, and then like developing chips that do ultimately lead to improved protocols and assays, if you're in a research environment or even a small biotech, and if you're trying to introduce a product, an advanced design can potentially lead towards, a market leading position in your assay, and ultimately lead to customer growth in new design applications.